I guess the question I have is like, so what was the expectation for them preseason, and what have they achieved that? Have they still surpassed that? Like, what was their goal? What was an appropriate goal going for them going into the season? Because I had them
Yeah.
pegged as like a 35 win team, right? And I go on ESPN's BPI, which is like their projection model, and they have it pegged at 37 to 45. That's where That's where they have the Rockets pegged to finish. Not the best projection model. 538 used to have a better one, but 538's gone now. So we have to go with ESPN's BPI. But they still project the Rockets to, win about 37 to 45 games. That's still above where I had them,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
Um, what about you? Did you think what was your goal and expectation for them this season?
all right. So as far as expectation goes, we can look at it from a few different angles. We can look at what you and I wanted from them, which you're talking about. We can look at what the team wanted from themselves, and we can look at what the public expected from them.
Right.
The easiest one to figure out is what the public expect. You can just look at the over under lines from Vegas, and that pretty much tells the story of what people in general think they're going to do. That was what, 31 and a half, 20, 29. I think it varied between 29 and 31. I think it ended up at 31 and a half.
Yeah.
So they're on pace to win 32 games easily. But, it would be very surprising if they hit that under. They still could, but it'd be really bad. Like, things would have to
Right.
get really bad for over, like, literally half the season, them to only win, what, like, 11 more games or whatever. Oof.
And all of
That's,
them are home games, probably. Right?
yeah, presumably.
Because they never win road games anymore.
No, no.
Yeah.
They had a little bit where they could win road games, and a little bit where
Yeah.
they could win Eastern Conference games. That's over.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing is the one that's hardest to figure out is what does the team want from themselves, because they can say stuff about it, but you don't really know. Like, unless you are like one of the Fertitas or like Ime Udoka, you don't really know what the real expectations are, and it's going to disagree inside the team. So I don't know. The team probably, I would guess that overall they want to make the play in at a bare minimum. Like, that's, I think, I'd have to assume that's like, especially with their hot start, they've got to feel like they have to make the play in, or it's been a disappointment for them at this point. Which I more or less agree with. My expectation going into the season was I didn't have any idea what they were going to be. I didn't think they're going to make this as big of a leap as they did previously. But then they looked a lot better than this. So it's been kind of a roller coaster ride. Where in this moment, like 2 months ago, I'd have been like, yeah, as long as they like win 30 games, I'm honestly pretty happy. Now, if they win 30 games, I'm pretty disappointed. So what a difference 12 months make. I think they have enough talent that they should be able to put this together a little bit more. But I do think they are facing a problem that actually the league is pretty even. There's a large amount of teams who are like all kind of okay, right? And that's the difficulty they're facing, is that there's only a few teams that are like bad. There's like 4 in the East and like 3 in the West that are just like, these are teams you should expect to beat anytime you play them, unless you're one of them. And so that means that most of the games they play are pretty challenging. So I'm not super upset about most of these games. It's just the ones where they look particularly bad. Like, weirdly, the game against the Timberwolves was pretty bad, because they did look like they kind of given up in that game. And losing the Timberwolves is no shame at all. Timberwolves are excellent this season. That is a title contender team. You should not expect to beat them if you're the Rockets, but you should expect to like not lose that badly. And the team against the Pistons was worrying. I mean, given the Pistons had to have a lot of things go right for them to lose a game by 2 points against like a 500-ish team, but those things did go right for them, and that's a problem. So I do feel like the Rockets are in a slump right now. I don't know whether it's because they're getting exposed to who they really are. I don't know if it's because they're having bad luck on opposing shooting. I don't know if it's because they just are like in bad vibes and just don't have the juice right now. I think we need to see what happens after they like get a win or two under their belts, which, I mean, hopefully will happen pretty soon, right? You gotta expect the win at some point, but they've gone from like a few games over 500 to a couple games under 500 in a fairly short span of time, and there was a minute where they looked like they had a real chance to take the division, and now that's obviously not going to happen. Like, they were a couple games behind the teams leading their division, like, not that long ago, and now that's over.
Yeah. A couple things. So they are underperforming their point differential, which means they've had some bad clutch luck, right? Which, for a young team, actually, you do kind of expect some bad clutch luck, right?
Yeah, it's not that surprising.
Right. And Fred VanVleet was kind of carrying the load there for a minute, but now it seems like they're playing like a young team in close games, right? But I will say this. Even if I agree with you that I had adjusted my expectation to where play-in tournament equals success, right? That's kind of where I was at too. I don't think they should do anything rash if they miss the play-in tournament because the Western Conference is kind of correcting itself in like a pretty drastic way. Like the teams that were bad in the beginning of the season are really making a push. Like the Clippers, for example, are like fourth in the Western Conference after they were like 12th or whatever, right? The Pelicans are a serious team again. The Mavericks have climbed the standings again. The Jazz, after they had a surprising year last year, it's like, oh, it's as if they're going back to normal. No. This is their normal. They're a good team, right? They're like a competitive team, right? So all the teams that like were expected to be better than them, but that they had surprisingly surpassed, are going back to where they should be in the conference. Now, I guess, what do you do now if you're Houston? Well, what you can do now is you just try and compete the best you can and try to get that play-in tournament. I worry that they do something rash if they don't get there because again, I think generally the organization they've had misses, right? Like the front office has had misses. Don't get me wrong, they've made mistakes. My worry is that if we deem this a failure, the front office will overreact in the off season and heads will roll. And I don't think this is a heads roll kind of season, right? Like I don't think if they miss the play-in tournament, Rafael Stone should lose his job.
Right? Yeah, I think anything 35 wins and up is not a problem for them, actually.
Right. No, but no, you and I agree with that, right? Like we're being rational. Sometimes ownership isn't always so rational, right? Especially once they've gotten a taste of the good life.